I was in London many years ago and I was filling up with fuel, and there was a homeless person who was outside the petrol station. I said to her, "How have you got there? How has this happened?" And she told me, and I said, "Well, look, have you thought about how you can get out of this situation? People that can help you apply for a job." And do you know what she said to me? "I just haven't got the energy to do any of it." She didn't have the capacity to be able to think like that. It's easy from a privileged point of view of not being in that position to say, "Look, why don't you think about doing this?" It's not easy when you're in that position.
For decades, Harvey has pursued his love of people via a successful sales career. Through the ups and downs of his life, he's learned we all struggle at times and need some extra help. These experiences have shaped Harvey's fascinating new endeavor. Let's dive in and learn about how he and his plan will continue to help others in more tangible ways.
So, as we get into introducing Harvey Tuck, who I call Tuck, I want to go back a little bit further and find out where this UK guy came from. Tell us a little bit about your background.
A lot of what I love and what I like doing has come from humor. I like making people laugh, but I think I've used it as a defense mechanism in the past, definitely, especially when I was younger. So I think humor has always been important to me. When I was a kid, I was just always watching comedies and it fascinated me. And I think it drives a lot of what I do and certainly who I am. When I first started with LinkedIn, it was all about coffee jokes, and it still is. And my lovely cat, who's sitting right next to me here, he features on that. It's nice to make people laugh. It helps connect and engage with people. It crosses generations. It crosses language barriers. With LinkedIn, it was then, and in my life, it was about helping people, making them laugh. And I think that's where I came into this, and people reacted to the comedy elements of it. If you can make someone smile and make someone happy, the world's a better place. If you're trying to find someone a solution, if that's your job, and sales has been my job for many years, that has that same feel. When you've found a solution for somebody, when you've solved their problem, you've made them happy. That's the part of the job, that I've loved.
Everything you say is exactly right and exactly true in sales. And I was thinking about those people. It's like, man, what is wrong with you? Nothing makes them happy, even though you've solved a big problem. But what you say resonates with me. And that's a great way to have adapted and grown. I mean, it's really positive. Tell everyone what it is that you do. You've been in sales for many years. I've been in sales for many years. And that's one thing that connected us on LinkedIn, that you're like a sales guy. So what do you sell?
At the moment, I sell coffee. What I love about the industry I'm in right now, which has been relatively new to me, the world of coffee, something that, again, a lot of people have in common. It doesn't matter whether I'm talking to people the other side of the world, a lot of people drink it. That's what I love about it. I think it, again, like humor, it has the ability to connect people together. I've had a mix in my career. I started off as a chef. Someone once asked me what inspired me to get into the world of hospitality and cooking. And you know what it was? It was Faulty Towers. And I don't know if you've ever seen the British sitcom Faulty Towers.
No, break it down. What
Yes.
is that?
You've got to watch it. It was set in the 1970s and it was about a sort of hapless hotel owner, but it made me laugh a lot. And for some bizarre reason, that inspired me to want to be a hotel manager.
Whoa.
That isn't the path I followed, but that then led to me wanting to learn to be a chef. The passion for cooking is the same as the passion I have for art. The ability to be able to create something pleasing to people. When you cook a meal and people enjoy it, it's a good feeling. And it's creative. It looks nice to create it. That was definitely something that was driving that early decision. I had some great experiences at college. And after I left college, I started my own business. I was 19 when it was an outside catering business. So I'd cook dinner parties for people and I did a few television events as well.
Oh my goodness. And so now I can see a salesperson developing now. You're going out there, you're hustling, you're getting business, you're convincing people to let you through these doors. So how does the salesman develop?
I think everybody has it in them in a way. When they're kids, yeah, every kid is trying to sort of sell staying up later to their parents. It was always in me. I suppose my first venture into sales was in real estate. Did that for a couple of years, but then just missed the industry I was passionate about. I missed being in the world of food and the world of restaurants. I was desperate to get back in it, but I still loved sales. Yeah, I got a job designing commercial kitchens and did that for 7 or 8 years. That then followed on to me running a business that designed commercial kitchens as well on my own for, yeah, it was for about 7 years I did that. We did all sorts of different projects during that time. I got a really good understanding of how a kitchen works and how it flows. My dad passed about 13 years ago now, but he was an architect. I think that's where the design elements of what I do and the property parts of my history have come from. Shortly after running my own business, I had an opportunity to become a property developer with a friend of mine. I did that for 3 years or so. And I came to a conclusion when he moved back to Malaysia. It was interesting because I had an opportunity to move to Malaysia at that time. He wanted to start an English restaurant in Kuala Lumpur. I would be running that, doing sort of traditional British food, whatever you consider that to be, roast dinners, fish and chips, that sort of thing. And also to run a property business there. It was a big leap of faith to move countries when at the time, my children were young. It wasn't something that I felt was right to do at the time. Sometimes you can pinpoint a decision you make in your life that if you had not made that decision, your life would have gone a completely different direction. When I was running my own kitchen fit out business, I often did telesales work myself. I'd set a target of 200 calls in a day. I remember this day. I'd done 180 calls that day. It was 5:30. I was tired. I was thinking, shall I pack up, and head off home? And I thought to myself, no, I'm going to do those extra 20 calls. On the 18th call, someone was interested in the kitchen. And I got on so well with the guy who owned this nursing home. I got on so well with him. And he turned out to be the person that I did property development with that offered me that opportunity. But even more than that, and even more important than that, I met my now wonderful wife while I was working there. So if I hadn't made those extra 20 calls, I would have never have met my wife. What a lesson for me to be determined and, to keep on pressing ahead with a goal there.
You're a deep thinker. That's what I'm seeing.
I think you're right. I think I've been criticized in some ways for overthinking things. I spend too long on a decision sometimes, or I certainly used to. I think now I'll go with my gut, but check in with my head. I mean, it comes a little bit with age. I think you can trust your heart and trust your gut the older you get. But I think you're right. I think I am a deep thinker. I think that probably ties in with the fact that I've always been told that I've got a good imagination. When my kids were young, I used to make them a story based on 3 words that they would say to me. That's why I like designing kitchens, because I can imagine them while I'm drawing. I think it's why I love cooking. That's why I love art. I get lost in art. It's ultimately relaxing. It gives me absolute pleasure. And if that can give other people any kind of pleasure, and if that can help somebody, it's the most amazing thing in the world.
Yeah. Hearing now who you are, where you came from, what makes you you. I know one of the reasons why I wanted to connect with you on LinkedIn and one of the reasons why I'm drawn to you, Chuck, is I think you really make clear that you want to make other people feel better. And, now's a good time. Can you tell our audience, what you've been doing every Sunday for many months? And
Absolutely. So I've been active on the platform just for a few months. I've met some amazing people. I've really had an attitude of being open to connections, and it's been a wonderful experience. But I wanted to try and do something on LinkedIn that really came from who I am, and I wanted to help people. Anyone can identify with this or connect with this. Is that feeling of losing your job, or that feeling that you might lose your job, that feeling of insecurity, that feeling of fear. It happens to so many people. I do a post, I put it on there every Sunday. I spend a week looking for people that are hunting for a new job, a new opportunity. I try and help them get that job, help them find that opportunity, connect them with recruiters, but try and lift their spirits a little. Ask them to reach out to me if they need some help or if they need to talk. I can empathize. I've been there. I've been there on more than one occasion where you're at a situation where you've lost a job and you're thinking, how am I going to pay my bills? And you're thinking, I've done everything I possibly can here. It's always worked out in the end, but it's a terrifying situation. I struggled with a feeling of worthlessness during that time, I think. You shouldn't feel that way. You really shouldn't. There's a really, really important mental health issue around this area. I think that any help that can be given is really important. So I started doing this post every Sunday. It gets a fair few reposts. It gets some good traction because I think it resonates with people. I've been doing the post for a few months and I just want to do more, hooking up people and connecting them with recruiters, offering them different ideas as to potentially how to help them with things they're struggling with. But it was the financial part of it that I couldn't help them with. Unfortunately, I haven't won the lottery yet, but so it would be lovely to be able to help them personally. I was just looking for a way in which I could help people. It leads perhaps very nicely onto the fact that I've mentioned before that I love art. Another thing that I did on LinkedIn was, sometimes people have an evocative view. It's a photograph or even an image in their mind, and it's special to them and it's special to just them. But that view brings them some happiness. And because painting brings me happiness, I reached out to people to say, if there's a view that's special to them, I would love to paint it and to give them that painting. And they would just pay the postage. I had a fair few people take me up on the offer. It then brought us to the conclusion that the two passions, helping people and art, could be brought together potentially to solve this problem. And it's really exciting.
so you got me hooked now. I mean, I'm sure people are like, okay, what project? That is the $64,000 question. What is your project?
I've been teasing people with it for a while as well. The idea, as I say, is to blend those two things together. So I have a passion for art and I want to help people. I want to help people financially as well. Come up with the name I Heart Works. And it's a play on a few things. I love art, and also I want to get art working for other people. The way it's going to work. Okay, so we are going to take a piece of art that is perhaps chosen by the community, by the LinkedIn community. We're going to get some prints and we're going to allow people the opportunity to buy those prints. We've got a Shopify site. When people buy the prints, they're going to be supporting a cause. And that cause is going to be a fund that will go towards helping somebody who's lost their job, or hopefully helping lots of people who have lost their job. It's not just for people with low incomes, it's for anybody out there who's in that position where they have lost their job and they're feeling vulnerable and they are doing everything that they can. So many people on the Sunday posts that I do are just doing all they can to help themselves, to try and support their family, and to try and get themselves in a good position. But they might be a few £100 or a few $100 short on their monthly bills. That's the type of person that I want to help with this. So someone who is doing all they can do, but they're just that little bit short and they haven't got anywhere else to turn. Even if we raise a few $100s, if that can help someone, then suddenly it's more than just a post. It's more than just creating awareness. It's more than me reaching out to them to say, look, here's somebody to talk to. It's some actual physical, real help. If we can achieve that, then it would be an amazing thing.
That sounds like super visionary. I mean, you are like putting into a synopsis a multi-million dollar concept.
Some elements of this are conceptual. A lot of this is really, really close to the beginning, but it's incredibly exciting because it's very real and it's going to help people. I know it is. There's lots and lots of work to do, lots of promotion to do, lots of details to sort out. And if we can just take away that insecurity, that feeling of lack of worth when you're unemployed, they should have some places to turn. As far as I know, certainly here in the UK, there's no insurance that you can buy to protect yourself or your family from a situation where you simply lose your job. There's protections if you lose your job to do with your health, but not to do with if you just simply lose your job. So everybody has that same vulnerability. Everybody has those bills to pay each month. And to be able to find a way to be able to help with that, I think is just an amazing thing to do and something that, even at this stage, I'm proud and excited to be involved in.
One thing I like is your mindset about if somebody says, well, what about unemployment? How do you address
Yeah,
it?
I think that's a really good point. I think this is part of a series of measures and a series of pieces of advice that you can give to somebody in that position. Social services is there to help somebody who is in that position, but it still may not be enough. You may be able to get a certain benefit that may cover a percentage of your current bills. Certainly in the UK, the social support system is there to help people on low or zero income who have been in that position for a long time. It's a good system to help them, although they can often get trapped in that situation because they will lose that benefit if they get a job. What's missing is the support for that 2 or 3 month period while you're actively and positively engaged in a new job search, but you're struggling during that period of time. You should be able to advise people to look at every option. I don't want it to be a labored form filling exercise. I think when you have a conversation with somebody, you can really understand who they are, what they're doing, how and why they're struggling, and what the best piece of advice and help will be for them. Because you can panic. I think people can panic when it happens. It's natural. But if you can kind of take some of that panic away, and say, well, look, it's okay. We've got this. And there's an element that people can do for themselves. And there's an element that they might need some help with. I'll share a story with you, actually. I was in London many years ago and I was filling up with fuel and there was a homeless person who was outside the petrol station. I said to her, how have you got there? How has this happened? And she told me, and I said, well, look, have you thought about how you can get out of this situation? If someone gave you £100, and you use that £100 to get a room for a week, you go to a charity shop, you get some new clothes. There are people that can help you apply for a job. And do you know what she said to me? I just haven't got the energy to do any of that. She didn't have the capacity to be able to think like that. And
Hmm.
it's easy from a privileged point of view of not being in that position to say, look, why don't you think about doing this? It's not easy when you're in that position. People need some help and they need some guidance. They need somebody who's perhaps on the outside to suggest some, some practical ways forward. Who knows, in the future, there could be arms of the cause where whether there's some specialists that we can put in touch with people that can help with that side of it, the mental health side of it. And there's also then the financial aspects of it. So whatever that means in terms of helping somebody who's lost their job, that's what is at its heart. That's what will drive it.
It's so cool to listen to you, Hard, because I know I study a lot of people just in my personal education that have been instrumental in change. And, listening to you, it's like gives me chills. I'm like, this dude's got a plan. It's going to make a difference. I mean, you're amazing.
Well, that's very good of you to say. But you need a plan. Someone very wise on LinkedIn today was talking about applying scientific method to business. And that was you, by the way. I'm going to promote you now, but
I was ready to get all excited. I'm like, who's this wise guy? And then you told me, I'm like, I don't know.
oh no, absolutely. What I loved about it, number one, it was celebrating great teachers, and we all
Yeah,
need to celebrate great teachers. But what I loved about that post, applying the scientific method to business, that's
right.
all about having a plan and testing. And if it's working, repeating that. If it's not working, changing it. It really resonated with me. This is no different. There's a plan, we're looking to see what support is currently out there and leveraging that support. When we launch artworks on the site ready for people to be able to buy to support this cause, we're going to see what works. And we don't know yet. That's the thing about these projects. We don't know what will work. I would be thrilled if we made a few $100s. I hope it's considerably more, but we're at this early stage, and I would be thrilled if a piece of art helped just a few people. I'm going to be excited to be able to make the call that ultimately means that we could help someone out. You need to be able to plan this and adapt and change it as elements of it may be more successful, or ways of doing it might be more successful than other ways. And you can only really do that by getting on with it and seeing what happens.
We're recording this the last day of March, and it'll be released very soon to the public. And what is your timeline? When do you feel that you're going to be ready for public launch of your site, which is iHeartWorks, IHART Works? When is it going to be ready for blast off?
Okay, well, we're hoping for a launch date towards the middle of April. It's going to be smaller at the beginning, and we'll be looking at growing that, new artworks coming on board, new packages, new ways to raise money and support. But we're going to have a website up and running. We'll be running all sorts of exciting and different promotions across LinkedIn and other platforms to promote that and really get some traction and really get to help some people.
Well, I'm so glad that this little boy from the UK who liked to laugh and keep people happy has become what you are.
I'm still a little boy who likes to make people happy. I think I'll always be that. Someone asked me the other day, what do you want to do when you grow up? I said, I'm not planning to.
All right. I love that. That's funny. So man, that I always know like when is the time to like tie it up. That's it right there, dude. That's it.